Introduction to Computer Security. When you say computer security, the words that will come out in our minds are information hiding. We have privacy. What are the threats possible? Some vulnerabilities among different applications and systems. The integrity of the data. We have computer epidemic. Added security might as well do encryption of either the data transmission or the application or the communication itself. Anonymity. We have also network security with regards who can access what rather, and we have also access control. But overall, it entails trust. So the trust we can give or get from a person or organization. So the question is why there's a need to study computer, or there's a need to know, to learn computer security. As humans, we all know that we are curious, inborn curious. Our curiosity brings us to the surface of the moon, sent some rovers to the Mars, and some expeditions in other parts of the solar system. Even deep sea explorations. So that's the problem. Given maybe a certain popular or a well-known or a heavily used system or application, the back of our minds as human, we tend to check what will happen if we do this or we will do that. So that's the curiosity of the human. So there's a need to secure our data from those curious individuals. It may it be from the outside threat, or it could be internal threat, just our own employees, or just some of our friends or colleagues doing some malicious things in our system. And there's a problem with computer dependency, though in general it's not a problem when everything is run by computer, because it made everything, our lives, our living, way more better. But the dependency to computers arouse a lot of problems. We need to secure those computers that run our daily lives. For example, a simple car. Our car most of today has its own microcomputers. Some even embedded security or embedded functionality to connect to the internet. It may sound convenient to the users, but as soon as you make your application or system convenient for the users to be used, there will be a problem, because most of the time with convenience you allow certain shortcuts, like how this certain process must be taken to ensure proper access to the system. Because if you think of it, it will add some burden to your users. So there are a lot of things also that will be that will happen if we will do some improvement in the convenience of use of the application. But as the programmers or developers or engineers in the computer world, we need to balance this convenience and security is a must. So that will be our target for this course: computer security and information assurance and security. According to Internet Crime Complaint, or IC3, in the past 5 years, there are about 1.8 million total complaints. 2015, there is 288,000. That is global internet crime. An estimated loss of $10.2 billion, with the different losses respectively in the different years. But if you are a big company with millions of users or even thousands, a certain internet crime will occur, maybe fraud or maybe hacking will occur within your company. You don't want to report, maybe you don't want to report those things, because as a company, it will destroy your reputation. So IC3 stated that these are just those people who reported the complaints. So there are private companies that will tell you there's a glitch or technical glitch, but at the end or the back end, a certain hack was performed. Again, the purpose of hiding the hacking is maybe it will destroy the company's reputation, given sensitive information from different customers being entrusted to the company. The problem will be if they lose his reputation, most likely their customers will go to the competitive, the other or the opposite, or maybe you can say that the competitor of that certain company. And still, according to IC3, these are the top 10 international victim countries. So as you can see, Philippines, there are 11 reported. So maybe Philippines has a lot of hacking is happening within the country. But it's not that only few of the private companies in the Philippines are reporting their hacks. Maybe these are just those with higher profit loss or losses. Gain. Losses, no, that's losses that are that the company is suffering. So here we have United Kingdom, the Russian Federation, Spain, with their respective number of crimes. So the victim count, the leading type of attack is the phishing, smishing, farming, all something that entails collecting your information. And according to the ranks, as you can see, EAC is ranked number 6, together with the non-payment, non-delivery crimes, the extortion, and based on IC3, these crimes are most of the crimes are result from ransomwares. This one, ransomware. BEAC. So that means business email compromise or email accounts compromise. So again, we need to secure the data of our clients, because the new goal of our generation is the information. So again, ransomware. So there are a lot of victims of ransomware. And as you notice, in terms of loss, EAC, or your business email compromise or email account compromise, has the biggest number of loss in terms of dollars. So that's $1.7 trillion. So if you come to think of it, there are a lot of sensitive information, or even companies' data, companies' information that is stored wherever it is, somewhere on a hard drive within the company. The problem with ransomware is they encrypt those data. So if you connect the dots, if you connect all the things, that information is the new gold. If you have an encrypted information, or say for example company's information, to lessen the possible loss, then you'll pay to the attacker. So it happened, one big company, I'll just not mention names of the big private company here in the Philippines, that one of its employees, it's not by accident, it's more of not doing what is in the protocol and compromising the company's or the company's security. All of their files, all of their information are being encrypted by a ransomware. That is, all the network, the company's network, was all the data in the company, it is in the network, computer network in that company, was being attacked or being encrypted by ransomware. So backups maybe are there, but sometimes there are information that is not backed up within the series of backups created by security personnel in that company. So what happened? If I've heard it right, they paid million for that certain attack. So maybe it's a big money, but as for a company, it's better than starting from what I mean is, it's better to lose that amount, millions, rather than to be bankrupt, given the result of the bankrupt is not about losing sales or whatever, but due to loss of information. And that big company never released any statement with regard that they are a victim of ransomware. So again, not reported, because if you try to report and that will go out in the internet, it will give a bad implication. Your reputation, of the company's reputation, will be, together with the data, will be lost. And there's also one instance where if we maybe you're saying that I have a personal computer, maybe my ransomware effect or the ransomware attack to my computer will result to minimal information or minimal loss. But if you'll come to think of it, most of devices that are lost or destroyed, the owner of that device never complained or never thought that it's the ways they lost the device. It's more of they lost the data together with that device. So there are a lot of precious information inside your device as a personal device. That's why cloud storage services are in today. You have Google Drive, for example, your OneDrive or whatever cloud storage service available. So the main purpose is to store your cloud. They secure it for a certain subscription amount, or maybe just for free. So the point is, forget about your device. Information of personal information, then you can store that one in the cloud. Any device, you can added accessibility, added uh, availability in terms of if you use different device and try to maybe change or update or access that certain information that you have saved in the cloud, then it will be possible. So there's a story about a grandma, a victim of ransomware. Her laptop was encrypted. The problem with ransomware is that you can use your device. It's just you can't use or you can't view your information within the device. So that's a sad part. So given that grandma, she's a victim of ransomware, I think the amount she paid is $2,000. That's a big amount of money. More than 100,000 if you convert that one to our currency. So she paid to the attacker because maybe you're saying it's what's inside her desktop or laptop that made her pay that certain amount. You know what? It's memories. The pictures of her granddaughters and grandchildren. The memories, the videos, the images which from time to time the grandma will check on her laptop and view it. So again, that's the information that being lost, being encrypted. So as much as possible, we want to protect that information. By doing it, there are a lot of ways to secure, etiquettes, and securing to ensure your data will be secured within the internet. And also, as application developers, software engineers, you design your applications to be secured. You don't want that your applications, it's not enough that your applications will run completely. And if some pen test or penetration testings are executed within your application, a lot of vulnerabilities are there are a lot of vulnerabilities in the report. So you don't want that one. So again, going back to this slide, as you can see, phishing and vishing, is ranked, I think, 9 or 10 in terms of victim loss. But again, BEC, EAC, that's a big amount. So nowadays, currently, we have the incident of Google, where as of this recording, Google already pulled out its offshore BPO in the Philippines. This is because some of its employees of that BPO compromises the accounts. Imagine the impact if you are part of that BPO company. Think of the impact that you cost. Maybe you've earned money from that, large money from that, but imagine the impact. There are a lot of employees within that BPO that possibly will lose their jobs also. So there are a lot of implications, there are a lot of effects that of things that you will be doing in terms of the information within the system. So I know within that BPO, it's stated there within the contract that these are illegal activities. Maybe with that amount, very, let's say, attractive amount that you can get from compromising those email accounts. So maybe in Tagalog, nasilaw with that. So I don't think that's a good mindset. Just for the money. And imagine how secure Google is. And the crime, the incident, is happening internal. That's why the threats might be an external or internal threat. We don't know exactly what is the capability of your employees, and most of the attacks and the losses and the crimes reported happen within the internal to the company. The next, then the critical infrastructure area, that includes telecommunications, the electric power systems, the water supply system. So imagine all those infrastructures are run by computers and surely is connected within the internet. It might be that it is not directly connected to the internet, but given your employee has access to that certain system, then there is a way, a certain, so in information security, that's opportunity. There's an opportunity for the attack. So maybe some of those mentioned in the slide infrastructures or in these infrastructure areas have already experienced breaches or hacks. For example, for telecommunications, at the back end of it, maybe they suffered some attacks already with minor losses, which causes interruption with the communication. So as subscribers to that telecommunication, all they can say is, all the company or the telco can say is, we've experienced technical glitch or technical difficulties, but they're being attacked already. It's just you experience minor losses. So even banking and finance, where very sensitive information are flowing, so they could be a problem. Might be they can lose some transactions, banking transactions, but you can say that we can have scapegoats for that. Let's say, for example, if you've experienced some minor hacking with zero losses, then you can pinpoint staff within your technical group that and just issue a statement that he made an erroneous commit to the server or something like that. Yeah, just to escape the issue of you've been a victim of a certain internet crime. Again, why you don't want to issue some public statement about this? You will lose your reputation, company's reputation. So what is a secure computer system? So to decide whether a computer system is secure, you must first decide what secure means to you. Then identify the threats you care about. So you will never own a perfectly secure system. So open source systems are there. Most of the systems use open source frameworks and applications nowadays. Given open source, there are a lot of possible contributors to that framework or system. Then possibly some of the contributors may have added some possible threat area. So you don't really know at the point where you use that framework or application to create your super app. Let's say I've created a super app using open source software or applications or frameworks. Then there might be some windows, some threat areas. So you can't really perform or you can't really own a perfectly secure system. So maybe you've heard some hacking happen with the big companies. So even that big, they are not prone, they are not safe because as security progresses, hackers also progresses. So it means they also make way to intrude or maybe try to enter to your secure system. So some threats example are viruses, Trojan, or horses, which is mostly with your internal employees. They are the main cause of this threat. We have also denial of service, maybe a result from a virus. We have stolen customer data. So again, information is the new gold. You might have, there might be some third-party individual who might be interested with your data. So beware. Always emphasize within your company or within your business how important information assurance is and security. Then some of those are modified databases, maybe just for fun, or maybe some competitor playing around with your company, trying to mess things out. Identity theft and other threats to personal privacy. Maybe a copy of your credit card or what. Then equipment theft, that's physical. Espionage within cyberspace. We have hacktivism and terrorism. So also within the armed forces, they stated that in the past years, maybe past generation or past decade, past decade, there are four spaces or there are four war areas. You have the land, air, the water, and the space. So these are the battlefields. So armed forces also stated that there is a fifth battlefield, and that is the cyberspace. If you see, I will include within the link of this video a cyber map attack, initially by Norse.org, and now there are a lot of map attacks, attack maps available within their site. You can see there the real-time attacks happening. So it might be just activism doing some attacks within within the system, but it could be also some private organization. Maybe the root cause of their attack is to penetrate competitor. So when you say cyber space is the next battlefield, so countries nowadays are, as much as they are performing, are doing things, who owns the best nuclear weapon, or who can launch a rocket first, as much as those battles are being happening already. In the fifth battlefield, for sure, secretly, they're doing some secret services also. We don't know if that is a spy software within different power countries, or maybe even not so powerful countries, because the good thing with cyberspace, you might don't I, I need to invest heavily to the initial equipment is not that expensive. Maybe you have a good guy who knows how to the different paths within the internet, then you can have him as your special guy that can do the who you will deploy within the fifth battlefield, and that is the cyberspace. Maybe large supercomputers are needed, but initially you don't need those things. All you need to do is a computer and internet connection. Maybe some hacking tools, but in general you don't need to invest big on the battle or in the cyberspace. So in computer security, there are three generally. So the most basic component. So though there are also other books and resources states that there are six, but in general, securing a system, you need these three basic components. That is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's CIA. A balance on those three will make your system highly secured. So when I say highly secured, it's not that it's perfectly secured. It's just it will increase the security of that system or application. So confidentiality, that is who is authorized to use data. So again, in the internet resources, the data are the resources. It could be a record of a patient, a record of the cars, or whatever, a bank record. But as soon as you store that data, who access those data within the internet or even within the company, that is confidentiality. You need to have the proper credentials and authorization for that. Or maybe you declare some policies for that. Who is authorized to use the data? Then the integrity. Is the data good? So as soon as a data is being retrieved from a server, so for example, I have my own website that enables each and everyone to post their information. Then accidentally, person A, grammarly wrong, stated his opinion. Then person B, being a grammar savvy, or being a some guy who wants a debate always, will directly comment to your opinion. But if it so happened, by the time person A posted his thought and realizes later on that there's a problem with the thought he just expressed and edited his or her post, what will happen to person B's data? Say for example, person B also already reading the text and is already composing a 150 words speech rebut to your post. Then as person B is writing his rebut and person A editing his or her post, what will happen to the data? So something like how Facebook is doing it the best. So if you might check, as soon as you comment to a certain post, Facebook has the capability of updating the post while you are writing. So that's a good application level security. You ensure the data that people are seeing are good. Then can access data whenever needed. So say for example, if you have a web server, then your application is hosted in the web server. So you made those data available maybe publicly or not. But the problem is exposing those data to the public for sure entails security issue. So there's a need to balance those three to have a secure information system. So again, the other is authentication and authorization. At least nowadays, CAPTCHAs are being created to ensure proper authentication and authorization to the access of your application. Even today, there are OTPs, so that's one-time password. Every time you perform something critical to your account, the application or the provider of the application will try to send some text messages verifying that the authenticity of your account may be sent to a certain mobile number. So with that, or email address. After you receive that one, a certain 6-digit PIN will be sent to your email or via text. Then you need to pin that one or key in that one to the transaction that you are creating. So with that, it adds authentication and authorization to your system. That is an added security in the computer, in your application. Again, there's a need to balance those three. For example, if you do some, you have confidentiality versus the integrity and the availability of the data. So I want my application to be confidential. So one way is you disconnect your computer from the internet. That's increasing the confidentiality. But the problem with that is the availability of your system. The integrity also suffers. So your availability suffers. You're not within the internet already. So that entails zero availability. Maybe not applicable to all applications. Say for example, an application intended to be offline, but I think there are no applications that are designed to be offline nowadays. The integrity also suffers because updates to the data will not be made. If you also increase the integrity of the data, that is, have intensive data checks. So you ensure there is a proper data check to that data, to your information or the data. But the problem with that, the confidentiality suffers because as more as data checking, as more data checking happen within the system, the more people can see that data. The availability also suffers due to lacks on data under verification. So for example, transaction A made by person A, so to be verified by person B. So that transaction might be under lock for verification. So person B or C, or even the intended user of that transaction, will have a lock problem in terms of data access. So that's why there's a need to balance the confidentiality, the availability, and the integrity to have, if not perfectly secured, but a highly secured system. So confidentiality, it's need to know basis for the data. How do we know who needs the data? That is via, most of cases, access control. Specify who can access what. So you can set that one within your policies within your computer. For example, within a bigger picture, maybe for Amazon Web Services, for example, you specify a certain security group that this one can access this one. This certain group can access this certain resource and can be inherited by different individuals or entities within the system. How do we know a user is the person she claims to be? So that there's a need her identity and to verify this identity. So again, there's no perfect as face verification promises earlier years that I will lock your device and the only way to unlock it is via your face. But what if I'll check for image within your Facebook account? Print your image and I will present it within the device. So that's the main first hurdle when face recognition is released. So with that, they design also some, if they try to detect some curves in your face, that's example, it's to determine that it's not a plain picture. So that's how they do it. They do it in the second phase, but I don't think some devices are have locked successfully. But when you do that thing, you'll use the availability of that service to be generic to all devices. The availability of that feature for for the devices will be compromised. Not all devices have a better camera. Not all devices has this sensor to detect those certain curves and so on. So that's why there's no perfectly secured system. So it is analogously need to access basis for the physical access. So for example, you have a computer room. Who owns the key? Who can enter the key? Who can enter the room? If you use the desktop, who are the different person and accounts there, and what are the different levels that these accounts can perform? Next, confidentiality. This is to ensure, difficult to ensure. Again, very difficult to ensure. You can't really, it's not easy to do verification and identification and authentication of the user. Because once, let's say for example, a password is compromised, your system is designed to accept that password. So as much as possible, as you soon check the user of the password is okay, you will allow a certain user to perform that thing. So the issues to assess in terms of success, that's yes or no. Integrity. Integrity versus confidentiality is concerned with unauthorized modification of assets or resources, where confidentiality is concerned with the access to assets. Integrity is more difficult to ensure than confidentiality. It's not a yes or no degree. It's context dependent, means different things in different contexts. Could mean any subset of this asset. So types of integrity, an example is quote from a politician. Preserve the quote, but misattribute. That's data integrity and the origin integrity. Then availability. Not understood very well yet. That's full implementation of availability is security's next challenge. So again, you want your data or your system to be available, but ensuring there's a security. So that's the problem. So for example, Facebook. Most of the users are posting everything on Facebook. But to ensure who can only read those information, the person who posted that post has the ability to either hide this post from a certain group, made it public, or made it friends only, even made it available to me only. So imagine you're posting then available to you only. So maybe there are instances that you might want to hide things and you only want yourself to see your post. So complex, it's context dependent. Could mean any subset of this asset. So we can say that an asset is available if timely request response. So in web application development, there's a battle between the response time. So Moodle sometimes, our layer sometimes will experience timely request response because of the number of users. The availability is there, it's just the response is low. So maybe in terms of availability overall, low ang availability. Fair allocation of resources. For example, there are a number of users, 200 students or 1,000 students accessing the layer or Moodle. What will happen? So will student A suffer to forever loading of information, or what I mean is forever wait for Moodle to load. So or Moodle will say server is unavailable. So with respect to the number of users also, the availability also is not, let's say, directly proportional. Fault tolerant, no total breakdown. So for example, your system will suffer some minor glitches. Maybe it will be hacked. What will happen? Do you have any backup? If you have any backup, how long will it be restored? So if you'll try to check Google and do some refresh on the Google homepage, and you will try to download an extension to your web browser to check the IP of the certain domain or website you are visiting. Every time you refresh Google, it will give you different IP addresses. So what does it mean? They have different servers running parallel to each other. Maybe it is load balanced by certain architecture. So what I mean by load balance is you have 5 servers running for your application. With the number of users of your application, you distribute the load or the request to those 5 servers. We have easy to use in the intended way. That's user convenience. Provides controlled concurrency. So what will happen if person A access that certain file? Then person B will also try to access that file. If read-only file, that's okay. But what if a shared file where students can or individuals can do read-write? How will the read-write functionality or feature or functionality of a shared resource being done? So that's provision of control in the concurrency.